BBC News with Sue Montgomery. There's been a third night of heavy skirmishes in East Jerusalem between Israeli police, Jewish settlers and Palestinians. Tom Bateman reports.
The city's surging tensions stem from several causes. Among them is the planned eviction of Palestinian families from their homes in the area by Jewish settlers. The Israeli government has now put the case on hold for several weeks in an apparent bid to reduce the current confluence of events gripping Jerusalem. Later today, thousands of Israelis will flock to the Old City for an annual event marking Israel's capture of East Jerusalem 54 years ago. A flag parade will see Jewish nationalists march through Muslim areas in these, the final days of the holy month of Ramadan. Many fear further confrontation.
A Russian doctor who treated the opposition activist Alexei Navalny after he nearly died on a domestic flight last year has been reported missing on a hunting trip. Police said Alexander Murakhovsky had not reported in from a Siberian forest since Friday. Alice Adderley reports.
Dr. Murakhovsky was the head physician at the Omsk Emergency Hospital when Vladimir Putin's chief critic was brought in after collapsing on an internal flight in August last year. At the time, he quashed initial reports that Mr. Navalny had been poisoned. Dr. Murakhovsky was later promoted to be regional health minister, but now his disappearance will raise eyebrows, especially as two other doctors from the same hospital have since died, one from a heart attack and one from a stroke.
Around 1,200 migrants in several boats have landed on the Italian island of Lampedusa within the space of a few hours. A sea rescue charity said many more were in difficulty off Malta. Mike Sanders has more details.
An influx of this size is rare, even for Lampedusa. Officials said one boat alone was carrying more than 400 people and another had at least 300. Giorgia Meloni of the far-right Brothers of Italy party called for a naval blockade. The former Interior Minister Matteo Salvini demanded an emergency meeting with the caretaker Prime Minister Mario Draghi. Mr. Salvini said with millions of Italians in difficulty due to the pandemic, they couldn't be thinking about thousands of migrants. He closed the ports to migrant rescue ships when he was Interior Minister and is facing 2 trials as a result.
A prominent anti-government activist in Iraq has been killed by gunmen outside his home in the southern city of Karbala. Ihab al-Wazni's death prompted protests across the city. The Taliban in Afghanistan have announced a 3-day ceasefire to mark the Muslim festival of Eid. It comes just 2 days after multiple explosions outside a school in Kabul, which killed more than 50 people. World News from the BBC. A Brazilian man who fought on the side of Russian separatist troops during the civil war in Ukraine has been detained in the state of Sao Paulo with a large quantity of illegal drugs, weapons and ammunition. Rafael Luzvargi said he had agreed to store the guns and the drugs in his house in exchange for a monthly payment from unknown criminals. He had returned to Brazil a month ago after spending a year in jail in Ukraine, convicted of being a terrorist and a mercenary. A new report says that climate change threatens to cause a dramatic fall in the output of black tea from the world's biggest producer, Kenya. Research by the charity Christian Aid suggests that tea production in Kenya could fall by just over a quarter by 2050. Other tea-producing nations such as India, Sri Lanka and China will also be affected by rising temperatures and unpredictable weather conditions. China is to set up a line of separation on the summit of Mount Everest to prevent the mingling of climbers from Nepal with those from the Tibetan side due to concerns over COVID-19. Here's Ramela Dasgupta.
The precautionary measure was reported by Chinese state media following a sharp increase in coronavirus cases in Nepal. But critics have questioned how the line would be enforced as the summit of Everest is about the size of a dining table. A small team of Tibetan climbing guides will ascend the mountain to set up the divide, but it's unclear whether they will stay to enforce the separation in the world's highest spot. More than 30 sick people had to be evacuated from the foot of Mount Everest this weekend.
A rescue operation is underway in London to free a small whale that's stranded in the River Thames. Fire crews, divers and a vet have been attempting to rescue the whale, which is believed to be a minke. BBC News.